Thank you for checking out the Media Marketing Podcast, a place where you can learn all things media and marketing related. Don't miss a beat in boosting your business and your brand. In each episode, you'll gain valuable insights, tools, and strategies to apply to your marketing efforts. And now your host, Brian Cargill.
All right, we are live. All right, welcome back to the Media Marketing Podcast. Today I'm joined by Dustin. Will you help me say your last name? I actually didn't ask you before.
Yeah, so here in the States we would say Croniser.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Austrian, and so how you would pronounce it there, I'm gonna butcher the accent, but it would be Kronitzer.
Gotcha. And I'm not going to try to repeat that because you did a better job than I ever could. So, well, that's awesome, Dustin. I'm excited to have you on the show. I'll read your intro here. The greenbuscafe is a mobile cafe operating out of a retro green 1976 Volkswagen bus. And you planning on opening this 2020, which I believe you guys have. And this mobile cafe features nutrient-dense superfood lattes, specialty coffee, and plant-based breakfast foods. Getting hungry just like reading about or talking about it. The Green Bus provides an entirely vegan, mostly gluten-free, and nutritionally packed cafe experience. The Green Bus aims to be a truly green cafe, working diligently to be more sustainable by offsetting its carbon footprint and reducing its environmental impact. The Green Bus will be serving food and beverages in compostable and biodegradable packaging, operating on LPG clean burning fuel generators, and donating a portion of every purchase to local and national environmental nonprofit organizations. Dustin will be documenting the process of building and growing this new and exciting mobile cafe at Green Bus Cafe on Instagram and Facebook. Dustin, that's an awesome intro. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we were just talking before this. You got some awesome stuff in the background. We were going to try to do it in the bus itself, but because of Wi-Fi constraints and things like that, makes it a little tricky.
Yeah, I guess I could have went on the phone, but that's always risky too. So I thought having a good Wi-Fi connection and being in the house was a little bit better.
Yeah, nice setup. So you guys said you're planning on opening in 2020. Have you guys officially opened? When we were chatting, like you're still like kind of the early stages. I thought like the concept and your branding of Green Bus Cafe, just brilliant. And maybe you can talk about where you guys are at and maybe what got you to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So surprisingly, I guess, because I was hoping to open in July, things got pushed back to August, and here we are closing September and still trying to get the license. So there's a lot to do here in Denver as far as getting certified through the health department. There's a ton of paperwork, a lot of different steps to kind of hop through, and yeah, so
But you posted something on social of like some certificate. Was that
Yeah, and I realize that probably so there's a lot of things that I've had to do. One thing was like I was having a really hard time passing the emissions test just to literally get the registration for the vehicle, because since COVID, the DMV's been closed, and when I bought the vehicle, I wasn't able to get it licensed or to get it registered. I'm sorry. So that took a lot of time because I had to wait for the DMV to open. Then I had to go through 3 different emissions tests here in Denver, go see a mechanic and try to get those emissions down for an old vehicle to idle at the right CO settings. So yeah, that was quite the journey. But as far as officially having my license and being able to legally vend, we're still working on that.
Yeah, and it's a 1976. Did that make it more challenging, less challenging? Because like I think some of those older cars are like easier to work on per se. They don't have the electronics, but yeah, to be in compliance with emissions regulations, did you have to go get it tuned up, or you said you went 3 times?
Yeah, so I had to go see a local mechanic who had one of these meters essentially for like, CO2 and other sorts of emissions. And so we had to basically, the mixture is what it would be on the carburetor, and the fuel and air intake. So we had to work on all that stuff and get it down to a low enough level, which was, I had to bring the vehicle down quite a bit in order to do that. But, I also appreciate the fact that there's these regulations out there so that we're not putting as much emissions, greenhouse gas effect and things. So.
Yeah. Well, best of luck if you guys it is a tough operation. I mean, I only feel for the people even here in Portland, we have a lot of food carts and things of that nature, and just like all the kind of the legal hoops to go through make it challenging. But there's kind of three components I think are exciting. Is one, it's like the bus itself is like a really cool idea and iconic. And the branding there behind it as well is really unique. And then what you guys are hoping to provide, which is these nutrient dense lattes, and I think when we talked, it was like snack foods, which aren't really available in a lot of places.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of my own thing that I wanted to see out there, myself with the diet that I follow, and just like something that was more sustainable and healthier options. So things have definitely evolved. We're still doing the superfood latte thing, really pushing for the sustainable and specialty coffee, and just trying to make that the best quality that it can be. And then I'm also providing a breakfast sandwich. So that was kind of like a newer thing, probably since I talked to you, was putting in a panini press. And yeah, I'm going to do these like healthier style, almost like a McGriddle type deal, a little bit of a play off of that, childhood nostalgia breakfast sandwich deal where you dip it in maple syrup and everything. So
it tastes better than a McGriddle because it won't have, all the preservatives and meat, and you'll have a vegan alternative, right?
Yeah. So everything will be plant-based. Like the main offering of the milk, where most coffee shops would default to dairy, ours is going to be all oat milk. And then I'm looking at having a secondary milk for maybe someone who wanted like a lower fat option, and maybe they don't like oat milk. Very few people that I've met that don't like oat milk, but so that's exciting. And just kind of doing stuff a little bit different. And like I said, it's the cafe that I wish was out there, and so that's kind of what I'm trying to make, or the business model that I wish was out there.
I think it's great. I think a lot of entrepreneurs will call that like scratching your own niche is kind of what you've been able to do.
Yeah, and like with how many setbacks kind of come up, because this is my first time navigating through this sort of a world, and yeah, with all these sorts of like struggles and hurdles and challenges that kind of come through, it's like, if this wasn't something that I was totally passionate about and stoked to build, it would be hard to keep going.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I think Steve Jobs said, like passion's the thing that's going to drive you through the most challenging parts, because everyone can get pretty excited, but then to when you have all these roadblocks and seeing them as challenges, turn them into opportunities. I think it's gonna be great, because like once you work through this, you'll be able to help other people. And I think you're not the only one that wants to see a bus like this. I think a lot of other people would enjoy seeing this as well. Do you get that kind of feedback from people? Like, hey, like I can't wait till you guys open, things like that?
Yeah, honestly, man, it's been pretty cool. Like that's been one of the most exciting things while I've been kind of building this, is that I found so many people that also want this to be a thing. This is the thing that I was stoked on making, but so many other people have reached out to me and been like, man, this is such a good idea. This is like, either it's that this is their dream business too, or they just like cannot wait to come and grab a latte and a sandwich and hang out and see the bus in action. So yeah, I think it just, that for me, like nostalgia is like kind of my thing. Like I just like things that I grew up admiring or whatever. And so the Volkswagen bus was always my dream car, and now I have my dream car, and I'm going to build it into a business. And I've always wanted to have a food truck or a restaurant or something like that. And so, I just think it's a really exciting sort of project and business idea, and something that you would want, that's exciting to take a friend to go get like a drink at or whatever, and have some good conversation.
Yeah. And I like to throw back, to a 76 Volkswagen. I think that, that's nostalgia right there. And
It's
I was
fun.
curious, and I'm glad you kind of answered it, because I was curious if like the bus came first or if the idea came first. And it sounds like, yeah, your dream for having this car, but then Green Bus Cafe is such an iconic, great name. Like it already sounds like a brand that I've heard of, and without even ever talking with you. Like, how did you come up with that?
Yeah, that's funny. Because honestly, it was, it really just fell into place. I had purchased the bus and was still trying to figure out the name of what I was going to do, which is interesting. Because I really was interested in, I wasn't sure about the color, but I was really interested in like the orange, like the burnt orange color. So I was really looking at those, and I ended up buying this bus in North Carolina. So I had to like fly out and go check it out and take it for a test drive and all that stuff. And then I bought it and then shipped it. I was planning on driving it, but probably better that I shipped it because I did have some mechanical issues after I bought it. Yeah, I just was like racking my brain, like what am I going to call this thing? And it just kind of just fell into place when I was throwing around names, and I was trying to get way overcomplicated about what I was going to call this thing, and then Green Bus Cafe just kind of just fell into place. It was kind of just perfect that way, the way that it happened.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. And I think that's what a lot of people that are like tuning in that are business owners, like when it comes to naming something, it's not easy. And it's easy to like keep adding on adjectives to keep like trying to make it sound more sophisticated, but then you almost like lose your customer. Like they're not going to think of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I was really toying around with the idea. I was going to call it like Go Green Bus or Go Green Cafe or something like that. Or,
like on the go. Yeah.
Go Green Bus Cafe, Go Green Bus Cafe. And I think it was my friend that was like, just Green Bus Cafe, just don't take the go off there. I was like, yes, that is so perfect. Everything just makes sense. Like I'm trying to make a sustainable business. I'm trying to make something that's a little bit better for the environment, and to be working for that and to be promoting that sort of thing. And so for the bus to be green is sort of ironic and serendipitous,
Yeah. Well, everything's like on brand. That's what I like about it. So you went over to the East Coast, like you're from, like you're native of Denver, right? And so
Florida, actually. I moved
okay.
here almost 5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So you were in Florida. You went up to North Carolina or South Carolina, you said, and checked out the bus.
Well, sorry. Yes, I was here in Denver. I was living in Denver. I'm originally from Florida, and then I was just looking online for the right bus. There wasn't one here in Colorado, and then I just found one that just really spoke to me. A lot of the buses have so like the Westphalias, they kind of have like this angled pop top, and the bus that I have is a Riviera, which was essentially converted here in the United States, is all that means. It was a third-party company that changed it into a camper because Germany just couldn't keep up with all the production demands at the time. So this camper pops like straight up. So there's like way more room in there. And it also just it's spring loaded. So it pops up better. So that was part of my, interest in it, because it just seemed like very roomy. And then like the interior seemed really cool, which I ended up tearing out. but
Oh wow.
But yeah, I mean, just like I talked to the dealer on the phone, and the guy was really cool, and he told me all of what they had done to the engine, how they had taken it apart and put it back together, and he had owned them for like 20 years. So I was pretty it was just like I felt good about it. The whole thing just felt right. And so after looking for months, it just like kind of fell into place.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was curious, like, because that's a bit of a gamble to go all the way out to the East Coast, check it out, but that sounds great that you talked with the guy, and if he's owned it for a while, then you can feel a lot more, comfortable in the purchase. But I'm glad you guys shipped it too instead of trying to drive. I know people that have done that, have gone and like I have a friend that went to go buy an RV, and it broke down like all along the way, and they had made like an itinerary that they were going to stop in these cities and make like guest appearances, and they had to derail the entire thing while they fixed the RV. But I think you're onto something with doing something a little bit smaller, going with Volkswagen Bus. So.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And originally it was going to be more of a food truck, but I just don't. The whole like step truck deal, the big box, just didn't really fit into like what I wanted to do aesthetically. And then the Volkswagen Bus, I was like, how do I make a food truck out of this like tiny, I mean, it's big, but it's not big in the sense of like a food truck big, you know, it's very small. The fridge space I'm using is quite tiny. Trying to fit everything in there and make it make sense was quite a challenge. So yeah, man.
Yeah, you got to be pretty organized on like get all the shelving space and really maximize the space that you have, right?
I had a friend, or I have a friend who does like 3D renders. So he built me a render of what it would look like before we built it, essentially. So
Wow.
that was like, I wasn't thinking I was going to do that, but I'm so glad that someone gave me some advice to look into that. And I was like, you know what? I have a friend who does that sort of stuff kind of on the side. So I reached out to him and, we worked out a deal and he built this thing for me. So I had this 3D sort of diagram of what I was trying to achieve. And then we, built the cabinets and counters and all the, everything was specific to the appliances that I bought.
That's pretty sweet. Do you guys still have that rendering? Like, I would love to see that on like social or something like that. Or
yeah, I do have a post on Instagram of that.
the rendering.
Yeah.
That's so impactful or very helpful when you're trying to look at a space and how you move through it, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was curious. So like the green aspect. I meant to make a note, like, so for the listeners out there, go to Facebook, go to Instagram and check out the pictures of this bust. It's pretty sweet. Was it that green originally, that color, or did you get that painted as well?
Yeah, so that's a 76 original, man. That's a original paint job, and pretty much mostly like some of the door panels and inside wood was changed, but when I bought it, it was pretty original. From 76. So so I've kept that, and I think ultimately I will get a nice paint job on it, but because I'm doing this all like DIY and trying to do it as minimal budget, like starting off really small. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew, put myself in like a ridiculous amount of debt and then be swamped. I mean, I think this whole COVID pandemic is, shows how when you take a risk like that, like taking risks are great, don't get me wrong. But if you put yourself in a position that's hard to get out of, you can kind of get stuck. And so I'm trying to do this from like the most minimal that I can get away with to start a business and then grow it very organically from that. And so, so long story short, I'm keeping the paint job because I think it's cool that it's a 76 and it's original, but eventually I'll probably paint it green again, and get some new stripes on it and all that stuff. And we got some decals being worked out. So I'm going to put some vinyl decals on there for, with the logo and, just some like social handles and that sort of thing.
Definitely. No, I think you bring up some good points, like talking about being frugal. Like those are all things that people should do in the beginning stages of their business anyway. I think I'm not a financial advisor or business consultant, but yeah, I think that's a good approach. And I think it'll I don't know. I'm hoping that a lot of us, I started my business within the last 2 years. And so being able to like survive this, you hope that it gives you some thicker skin, that you're able to, I don't know, see through a lot more other challenges down the road. But it's been tough. And, very candidly, like COVID has been a huge setback for a lot of people. So I can only understand and only feel for you. Is there anything that people can do to help out the Green Bus during this time? Obviously, like following on social media, which we'll put in the show notes, the Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I think just going to, at greenbuscafe, Instagram is really where I post, and Facebook gets all of that information, but I connect with people there. So yeah, I think really it's just, the moral support has been really helpful. The amount of people I've connected with out here in Denver has been amazing. I have over 1,000 followers of people for a business that I have yet to open, and a lot of people responding to stories and replying that they're so invested in my business because they've been there every step of the way. And so I think that that's kind of the main thing right now. It's really just the last finishing sort of touches of getting that health and fire code inspection and getting approved. But we're right there, kind of right at the end. It's the last mile. So yeah, we're getting
yeah. Hopefully by 2021. But I think part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on the show, and I think you're such a big inspiration, or will be an inspiration for other business owners, is that you've been able to build and market this company without having as many sales this year. But people do know the Green Bus Cafe. So a lot of people, I think, they try to get the perfect product. They try to get everything, aligned, and then they go to market. But you've kind of flipped that model on its head. And now I think you're pretty smart in that way, because when you do launch, you can post out on Instagram. And like I said, there's 1,000 people that now know, like, hey, they've launched, we should go check it out. Whereas it's hard to do that if you only have, a handful of followers, less than 10 followers, and the word's not going to get out there. So it's pretty exciting for you guys.
Yeah. It's, I listened to some different business podcasts, and I took a business course out here. So it was called Co-Starters. So it was with the Commons on Champa. And that's a really great resource for people locally, but everybody, every major city will have a chamber of commerce or some sort of a small business organization that you can kind of get involved with. And I also did a food truck, an online food truck course, right before the COVID thing was happening, and then during it. So it was kind of fun. It was interesting because it was live streamed, but it wasn't done that way you know what I mean? It was done that way because they just planned on having people from all over joining in. But so yeah, I did these multi-week or multi-month courses. And so yeah, I got a lot of really great information of one of the things people were urging was start your Instagram account today. If you haven't done it, you're behind. That's the main thing. You want to start that sort of, snowball effect of getting people excited. And there's tons of things while you're working on them that you can post and get people interested. And that was, I think, one of the greatest advice that I've taken from some of these business courses, is just to get out there and to get, start building that community. And I'll meet up with other local businesses or just people in the area and invite them over and make them a latte, and it's fun because I get to make that connection. I get to build that community, and it also, it gives me practice to make a latte. What am I going to do? Just keep making it for myself and my roommates, it's
I'm sure they love it.
Yeah, no. And it's great. But it's really cool to be able to connect with people. And I think I would strongly suggest people, if you're starting a business, to kind of, find the interesting aspects of it and what is your story, and start letting people know about that so they can get excited about it.
A big thank you to our sponsors over at songtub.com. That's right, song or music and a tub, like a bath, but more fun to say. Tub. Anyway, you can check out Songtub's website for any of your music needs. In fact, the song playing in the background right now is from Songtub. So why pick them over anyone else? Well, they curate the music. And I know the guys, so that means I know that they're selecting great music for your project. A lot of other companies will brag about how many songs they have, maybe 100,000, 200,000, maybe even 1 million. But honestly, I don't have time for that. I don't have the time to just sit down and go next, a song not so great, trying to figure out where the best music is. Songtub.com, great place to get your music. And now I'm excited to offer you the first month for free if you go to songtub.com/pro, P-R-O, and we have a promo code for you. Yes, that's right, my name, your host, Brian, B-R-Y-A-N, and that will give you your first month free to have access to a huge music library that you can use towards your next video project, podcast, or any of your general audio needs. Anyway, back to the show. I think what I appreciate about you, Dustin, is you're so able to you're so personable, and you're able to connect with people through social, which is not always something that people are comfortable or confident in doing. Yeah, and that's great advice. Start doing it today, create those handles and start working on it. Any other, like, what would you say to someone that might have, like, I guess, an emotional roadblock to, like, or hesitancy to start posting or putting themselves out there because they don't want to be, they're afraid of being judged or afraid of someone trolling them? Do you have any, advice for someone like that?
Yeah, I think let's think about that for a second. Yeah, I think anytime you put yourself out there, it's definitely vulnerable. But any vulnerable place you find yourself in is a challenge, and a challenge is just an opportunity for growth. So I know that that's easier said than done, but if you can't put yourself out there, it's hard to think. I mean, there's so many ridiculous challenges when opening your own business, and like that's one, like you're gonna have to get over that fear because you're gonna have to market yourself. You're gonna have to be able to connect with people. So I would say, like in any challenge, just take it off in the amount, the bite-sized chunks that you can take off every day. Whether if you're like not, for some people, I think it's hard because maybe they're in a generation that social media didn't kind of come up as they were growing up. So, I've talked to different business owners that they're like, 60 plus, and they're like, well, I don't know how to use this stuff. Like, how can I connect with people? And so I think that there is a disconnect there for sure. But there's really great courses and videos of like how to connect with people. And I think being like as authentic as you possibly can be, like to yourself, like just trying to be yourself. I really put a lot of my personality and like who I am into the business. And I try to like think about it. Oh, am I being like too personal in a sense? But people like that raw sort of personality aspect. And that's what these like Instagram and Facebook stories you're able to do, because you're just taking like a raw video or a raw picture, and you don't have to dress everything up, and everything doesn't have to be all perfect these days with like billboards or commercials or ads or whatever. But now you can do stuff that is raw and it's you and it's authentic. And I think being able to just tell your story and be yourself, that's where the gold is. Like, that's what people resonate with. That's what people, they're able to communicate because they feel like, oh, this is a person. This is someone that I can relate to.
Yeah.
And and just figuring out the tools, because that's all it is a tool, and being able to find ways to utilize this. All of that information is out there. So once you figure out how to utilize it, just being your authentic self and just being personable is like the best way to go about it.
Definitely. I know, it's so crazy. Like, I feel like I've always heard the quote, like, just be yourself. And then and social media is really, right, sometimes easier said than done, because you're like, well, I am myself. Who else could I be? But I think social media is really putting this like kind of mirror in front of us, or not exposing, but it's like kind of having to come to grips with like being yourself. And then I don't know, I think a lot of us want to put on a perception out there, or don't want to be seen in a negative light. So they're going to like do what they can to make them like create this perception of always looking polished or looking with it or put together. But that doesn't, like you mentioned, that doesn't resonate with people. Like, people can't connect with someone who isn't authentic, who is okay. Like, I found like the more vulnerable you can be and owning up to some of the challenges that you might be experiencing actually, allows your audience to connect with you that much more.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I think that we kind of live in we're in an infancy stage of this new technology, right? It's like we're trying to navigate through a world of something that we've never had before. And it's so unprecedented that we have a way to connect online with everyone and also be a little bit disconnected in person as well, So yeah, it's different and it's strange. And I think that with like filters and sort of this thing of trying to play up that every day is great and you're always smiling in a picture or whatever it is, it does add a level of disconnect. It's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, it's like you're you're projecting something that isn't like maybe truly what the day is. And so for me personally, like I try not to be too negative, even if my day is like not going the best way, but personally, I always just try to be optimistic about everything. But if I'm going through a challenge, like I'm going to post the challenge, like I'm going to post the thing that like I'm struggling to get this. One of the biggest ones was my plumbing setup. I've never done plumbing, just like I've never done a lot of the things with this business, but the plumbing was, I mean, one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, man. I mean, it was like, and everybody, like not everybody, but people that I had talked to that have done plumbing, they're like, oh, plumbing is like cake. It's so easy. You'll be able to figure it out. Like you're a smart guy. And I'm like, okay, like it made sense, but the struggle behind it was, I mean, great. There was tons of leaks all the time, getting everything together. It just did not want to work. And so like I was posting that like raw in the moment emotion, and it helped me because I wasn't alone now. Like I wasn't just sitting there in a bus that like plumbing system that's leaking by myself, ripping my hair out. I'm posting this thing to people and they're able to like interact with me back. And I'm able to have that sort of interaction about this moment, this current situation that I'm living out. And people are able to kind of like ride that ride with me and like feel for me in that moment. And I think that's where the beauty of the connection comes in.
Wow. That's a powerful story right there. And then just to let people know, so the plumbing, that's just be able to like run the machines, latte and stuff, or can you actually like use the facilities, like go to the bathroom there if you needed to, or is that just?
So like, sorry, like, would you be able to use a bathroom? Like,
Yeah. So you're doing plumbing through your
oh yeah.
your
That'd be
bus.
so cool if I could have like a bathroom, but yeah,
But it's
so
mainly
tiny,
just to be
man.
able, it's just to be able to run the machines, coffee machines and stuff.
Yeah. So really, it's funny because my espresso machine works off of a separate system than my sink does. So I have like a pitcher rinser and I have a sink, and then I have a hot water heater. Basically, like I would have a sink for washing my hands, but I would not have a hot water heater, and that's been like, and it's only because those are the restrictions and sort of things that you like, the requirements that you need here in Denver. So so there's like a system that's built where I have to have 3 gallons per hour of operation. And then you have like, so I have a 25-gallon tank under my cabinets in the main area of the bus. And then under it, I have 30 gallons of gray water runoff. So that's a whole separate system than what's like running into the espresso machine. And the reason is because you need very specific water to run in an espresso machine. And so it has to have the proper minerals, but not too many minerals, because you'll either have terrible tasting coffee or you'll like break the machine, and the equipment's really expensive. So yeah, it's really funny because my espresso setup is very minimal and like plug and play, but the setup for washing my hands and rinsing pitchers was incredibly complicated.
Sheesh. Yeah, we just had a little like Keurig, and the minerals in there kind of blocked it all up, and it took a couple days just to fix that. So you're doing something that's like on a whole larger scale than all of it, but I can only imagine. And like you said, that it takes time, and then when stuff does get backed up, then you can't operate, and then it's expensive. So, but thanks for giving kind of that context and clarity for the audience of kind of the visual of what the bus looks like and what are some of the things you're dealing with. And I think that's great that you highlighted that. I need to probably do more of that myself, like being more vulnerable, or just posting about things that might not be going well. Cause I think the word is like accountability. Like you're able to send it to them, and then they probably want updates. So like what stage is the plumbing at now? And then you're able to create that dialogue with your audience.
Yeah, I think I think probably less that people care. I mean, I try to like think about like, okay, I mean, really honestly, do people care? I mean, maybe, but more that is the accountability factor, like you said. Like it's like I'm putting this out there, so if I don't show up for like 3 days, like where am I at? Like what am I doing? Like it makes me feel a little guilty, which maybe isn't like the best method, but it helps me to stay on task, because like, yes, we all need like a mental health day, or like a day of just like hanging out with friends or going camping. Like sometimes you got to get away, because the stress of like working on something for 2 weeks that just is not going right is not gonna, there's just like a boiling point, and at some point you got to let off some steam and then like hop back with like a fresh set. Like when you got some fresh hand, I was working on a project recently. Like I had a bolt that busted off in the frame. It got seized and rusted or something, and the last owner or somebody along the lines busted the head of this bolt off for that holds on my bumper, my back bumper, and I have to put a trailer hitch on there. I had to. It's on there now. But it turned into this huge project, man. And it was so crazy how much time to drill out this old bolt and then tap new holes. And every time I would put the hitch on and get it secured, I had to then put the exhaust on, because in order to use a drill, you had to take the exhaust off. So I'd take the exhaust catalytic converter stuff off of there, and then I'd try to put that on, and then it wouldn't fit. So then I'd like take the hitch off and the bumper, and then I'd like put it, and I'm like by myself, like holding like very heavy stuff with I'm using both feet, I'm using both hands, like I'm using like hammers and like mallets to wedge things up, so that and it was like I was at this point where I was like, all right, there was like 2 bolts that I like couldn't get in there, and I was like, it's together, it's gonna be fine. And then I was like realizing that it wasn't running properly without being as secured with those other bolts. And just the next day coming into it, I was able to like come in with some fresh eyes and fresh hands and like finish the job. But after you like work 10 hours in a day and you're like working on the same task, you're like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go crazy,
Definitely. Yeah. Come back with a little bit more motivation. But I mean, it's those stories like that I think keeps people excited and lets them know that you really have put like your whole heart and energy into making this thing work. And I think it's those stories, and even like just from talking with you, like I can tell that you're pretty knowledgeable about this bus and know like kind of inner workings and a lot of the different facts. I'm sure a lot of people coming up are going to ask you like, oh, what year is this? And probably some of the fun facts. And I'm excited for you to be able to share some of those stories with people.
Yeah. It's fun too. Like, I think one thing is that like when you build something, not only do you feel like some sort of sense of connection and like gratitude for the fact that you like went through the struggles, but also like, how that thing works. So like when the water system breaks, because, it's gonna, like there's things are gonna go wrong, but like I built it, like I did that thing. So like I can go back into my memory bank and remember when I put this together, it'll make a lot more sense than trying to call a plumber every time I have a plumbing issue, or to call a mechanic every time I have a mechanical issue. I can wear all of those hats at least a little bit, and then when I get to that point, and I need to take it to somebody, I can take it to them and watch what they do and then kind of apply that next time. But, if you don't build it, you'll never know.
Exactly. I think that's awesome. And I think I think for me, like mentally preparing, like if I already know how much work it took before, then I'm like, okay, I know like I need to set aside 4 to 6 hours to get this done. Or like you said, 10 hours in a day. And it just like, it gives me that much like more reassurance, rather than if I don't know and I like plan for just an hour or 2 to get it done and winds up taking me a whole day, then I'm just like destroyed. I'm just like, dude, I'm ready for this day to be over. And like you did, reapproach it later when you have some more motivation, a little more energy.
Yeah.
Fresh set of eyes.
It is. It's crazy. Everything just takes longer than you thought. Some things, very few, some will like be like, oh, that was cake. That was easy. That was so simple. But then like,
I know, then I'm like, is this actually done?
Am I right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're like pinching yourself. Am I dreaming?
Yeah.
But yeah, like 95% of the time, man, it's like that thing that you were like, okay, I'll like work on this for like 4 hours and that should be plenty of time. It's like 2 weeks later, you know, you're like still working on that project. You're like, I cannot even
I didn't
believe
think it was going to take this long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dustin, this is the media marketing podcast. And so you mentioned before the podcast that you haven't really been doing your YouTube channel as much, but I think one of the things that got me excited is that you were leveraging, you're already doing a great job of leveraging Instagram and Facebook, but you've also were leveraging a YouTube channel. Do you want to talk about that YouTube channel? And even the fact that you're not doing it anymore, I think that you have this whole database and it's something that you can go back to is still a big win. And, big congrats to you. You produced a handful of videos, but maybe you could talk about how that YouTube channel came about and what made you excited about it.
Yeah. So I've just always been really, my background is in like audio video. So I went to school for audio engineering and I worked on video projects when I was in school. So I learned how to work on Final Cut and do video editing and audio editing. So I got really into making videos. It was just really exciting to me and still is. And I've actually been thinking like I need to do like another video sometime soon. So for a while when I was traveling for my career before I moved into doing this full time, I was like traveling, doing this tech job, and I was documenting my process of trying to like eat healthy, and stay healthy essentially on the road and as a vegan, as as this like person going from city to city. And so that was kind of like my inspiration for that. And I would go to different restaurants and document, just kind of like review them so people could see it before they went to that city. And that was fun. And then also just like how to eat healthy and try to give some sort of motivation for people to like stay going to like the hotel fitness centers or whatever. Like when you stop in a different city, like get off the plane and you like go hit the gym and then, try to make healthier eating choices and stuff. And so it was really fun. And if there were just more hours in the day, I would keep doing it. It's really just a matter of how much time I've had, I'm putting into this project right now. And I made a couple videos I filmed a couple videos of me working on the bus. And I realized that what I was doing was I was filming like with my camera for a YouTube video. And then I was like filming with my phone to do stories on Instagram. And I just felt really weird because I was like doing it twice, and I was like, well, this can be like Instagram content and then this can be like YouTube content. And it was just really hard for me to do that, to try to do all of that and
actually do the work on your bus
and actually keep working on the bus. Cause it's like, okay, I've been in here for an hour and I've like done like 20 minutes of work on the bus and I'm like sitting here filming stuff and talking to the camera, which is great, all good stuff. And I would like to do more updates, but I think, I'll probably do one, but I'll just kind of split up the content. Like I'll put the same video on YouTube that I'll put on like Instagram TV or whatever, IGTV, and just try to make, streamline it a little bit so it's not like separate content. And I think YouTube is a great platform. It's awesome to make those videos. But it takes for me to do like a 10-minute video or whatever I was doing at the time, it was like a full day of editing. And then I would spend another almost half of a day doing like the post and all of the little like snippets for like Instagram and all that, promotion, and Facebook and everything. And so it's just like, if you add all those days up that I'd be spending editing, I'd be so much more behind on this project that I'm working on the business. And so, I think probably I'll get back into doing the videos, but it'd be ideal to like hire somebody to kind of take a little bit of that load off for me, to do a little bit of the filming and a little bit of the editing, and just to try to make it a little like somebody that's thinking about the project that I don't have to think as much about it,
Yeah, they're just focused on the filming. You're able to just like get the work done. But yeah. You sound defeated, but I would say like it sounds like you learned a lot throughout that process. And other than, Instagram stories, hopefully kind of left a lasting impression in people's minds. But those YouTube videos will be around for a long time to come. And the way that I've learned with YouTube is like a video that they only get more visibility by the longer they're up there. Like posting it, unless you're, somebody that already has a lot of followers, or, you can post something and it's going to get traction right away. But for the majority of us, the things that you posted 3 or 4 years ago are just now starting to get like quite a bit of traction, or at least that's how I see it, or have experienced it. So yeah, good on you. And it sounds like you learned, and I think that's a big part of it too, is like repurposing content, not trying to recreate something different for each platform, but like, here's the thing that I made, and then sprinkling it out to the other platforms is a really smart strategy.
I would love to do more videos. I think it's just a matter of like, how can I, where can I dedicate that time? And everything is just a kind of a juggling act, of like where do I balance this and where do I balance that? So, but I do think I am going to do another like video, kind of more of an update, and I would like to do like a video tour of the bus, from where I started and like where it is now, and just kind of give an overview, kind of walking people through, like this is this thing and this is that, and this took forever, and then just give people an update of, where I'm at and in the whole journey. I mean, you can see it in bits and pieces and through all my posts and things, but it'd be nice to have it kind of like in one video, so people can have something to kind of like watch or whatever.
A cactus knows how to survive. It can endure scorching heat, limited rainfall, and defends itself against critters daily. Your business is no different. To survive harsh conditions, it's important to develop deep roots using media content that'll continuously nourish and support your marketing efforts day after day. Tactus Media is here to help you determine a strategy and create media content. Together, let's map out the next sequence of videos, podcasts, and social media to help your business thrive. Work with Tactus Media, media tactics that stick. Ouch! Visit tactusmedia.com to learn more.
And I think that totally makes sense, because what you're providing people is a very like physical product, something that you can actually see. It's not this service or a concept. It's like, hey, here's like, I actually work out of this bus and I actually give lattes out to people. So yeah, I'm just excited for you guys. I think that sounds like a great like reveal video once everything is, up to snuff. That's it's just mind blowing to me, and I look at a lot of these food carts, here they're selling a drink for, $4 or $5, and they have to sell enough of those to, cover all their costs. So good for you. And I'm excited because, like myself, I'm learning so much during this time, and it'll just like, hopefully just get better over time. And eventually you're able to take that knowledge and pass it on to others and help other people get to the spot where you're at. So what's what's your favorite part about what you do? That's like one of my favorite questions to ask people, like, is what gets you up every morning and what gets you excited to work on the bus, other than, I guess it was a dream you've always had, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was was going to be my first answer. I mean,
sorry, I took your answer.
Like, I'm living my dream, like, and it's not sunshine and rainbows all the time, that's what like life is not that, life is like this, this kind of yin yang sort of, it's so you have good days and you have bad days, and like, but I'm doing a thing, and even if like the thing somehow doesn't work out the way, nothing ever works out the way you like planned or whatever, but like if it doesn't work out so perfectly or whatever, like I went for it, I did like the thing that was like calling to me to do, and it just feels right. So
and I think that's great, because there's so many people that either like too old, like they've already had their career, and like for them to start a business just doesn't make sense, or they die with that idea. Like people die with a lot of their hopes and dreams, not ever being able to realize them. So yeah, good for you for going for it.
Yeah, man. Definitely, like, I think that life is like about taking risks, so if you're not happy doing what you're doing, then quit and do something else. You know, do the thing that is going to bring you joy, like real, true joy. And like I think that's like a life truth. You know, and like it's hard. It's so hard to like quit this like reliable job or whatever. And like a lot of people are gonna, you know, your family
Or losing a job because of COVID. You know, this might be
yeah.
the best time for a lot of people to start businesses.
It is. Yeah, I would say, I mean, yes, absolutely, dude, for sure. I thought, I feel for a lot of people, this obviously was very devastating. For me, in my like specific circumstance, though, I had a job that I worked very full time and regularly at, and I was traveling a lot, and I was just like, I was really burnt out. And so I was ready to do this project, and I was already kind of shifting over to doing it. And then this pandemic swept the nation or the world, and I was no longer employed. And so I was like, okay, well, full speed ahead. Like now I'm going to do this thing. But yeah, this is a time for reflection and introspection and to like, to do what you've always wanted to do, you know, whatever that is.
Yeah. And talking about life and like what you want to get out of life and what kind of things you want to try to, you know, tackle. And like, like you mentioned that like every day isn't going to be awesome. There's going to be those downer days or days where you question things. And, but I think that passion kind of pulls people through and realizing, yeah, we're trying to do a thing, trying to do something that no one else has done before. No one else has a green bus cafe. And so trying to build that from scratch, and it's just going to add to the unique experiences, you know, of life. And, you know, it's pretty exciting. I hope, you know, 2021, I'm hopeful. I'm like you, I like to always be pretty optimistic. If I am going to like put something on social, I want to make sure that I don't want to bring people down. I want people to, there's already enough of that content out there. Like I want to help people, inspire people, motivate them, and let them know that there are resources to be able to do whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, when you have like something, I think like people, you know, there's something very, you know, in our nature that we just like have to have something to focus on. And so it's really important to like have something that you're working at, something that you're spending your time on, that you can kind of, you know, work that energy out and put it into something, some sort of a thing, whether it's just like, you know, a sport or exercising or whatever it is. But we need like a thing. And I think without it, you start to go crazy. You know, if you get told you have to stay home for months on end, you know, and like you can't go outside and you can't do whatever, it's like, I'm going to go crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that's like what
or you're being denied, like, denied that craft or whatever you do day to day. If you're not able to go to the office and do that. Yeah. People, I guess now during this time, trying to find a new hobby.
Yeah.
Or yes, having a business where you can put all or a side business, even a side hustle where you can put all of your focus into that now because of the circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you were someone who like identified with your job or your career, and then that just like all ended abruptly, it's like, where's my identity, you know? But you know, so that's a scary thing, I think, for a lot of people. But you know, there's always a place to kind of like shift that energy and put it into something else. So
you bring up an interesting point, like talking about identity. And yeah, people do, I think, I don't know if we've talked about this on maybe some of the early episodes of the podcast, where like a lot of people identify when you're growing up, you maybe play sports, or maybe you're a musician, and then you realize, oh, I can't play sports my whole life, or maybe I just don't have the necessary skills to be a famous musician, and having to like re-identify yourself. But what's cool as an entrepreneur or creating your own business is like you can create your own identity. You know, for me, it's like the media marketing podcast, and for you, it's like the Green Bus Cafe is now kind of like part of that identity. And are people starting to kind of see you as like the Green Bus Cafe guy, or is that kind of the hope eventually?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the hope. I think, but what is interesting though is like when I go kind of downtown and I'm out, not even with the bus, like with the bus for sure, but like not even with the bus, I get people that'll be like passing on the bike or whatever, like they'll be like, yo, the green bus guy, which is like so strange because I've literally never been open for a day. You know what I mean? I've like never vended anywhere. And like, so people just know me from Instagram and like me chatting with people and just kind of being in that community. So yeah, I don't know if I like necessarily care if people think about me as the Green Bus Cafe guy or not. But I think it's very interesting and it's fun and it's exciting and yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. And I think you're in a good community there. They're in Denver. Yeah. Do you already have an idea of where you want to like post up your bus, or is that a decision you'll make down the road?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I think it's going to be a lot of trial and error, man. It's like, where is going to work and what time is going to work and what days are going to work, and seasons are going to all present their own struggle. Like right now, I'm like really interested in finding a place to kind of hide out for the winter, like not hide, but like get the bus out of the outside and get it inside. So
yeah, out of the
really
elements.
Cool. Yeah, it'd be really cool if there was like a bar or a brewery or something, because they always open, a little bit later in the day, typically. And if they, a lot of the places, they're very industrial out here. And so they have big rolly doors and things, but in breweries tend to just like have a lot of space. So it'd be really cool if I just kind of parked maybe in a corner somewhere, or just because first of all, it's a fun little kind of aesthetic piece. So it's just going to like add to somebody's like quirky aesthetics anyways. But it would be really fun if we just were a cafe in the morning. We'll open up earlier. We'll be a cafe for the first, 6 hours or something like that. And then the rest of the day, it's a bar or a brewery or whatever. So that's kind of like the next hunt right now is trying to find the right pairing for that. And right now too, like a lot of businesses are closing. So, I mean, one of my favorite places, Alternation Brewing, they're closing shop and doing their last weekend this coming weekend. So yeah, I mean, there's just like, there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, but trying to navigate that and find out where that place is. I'm sure there's going to be, the right place. It'll fall into place. It always seems to.
I know, that's the wild part about this whole like entrepreneurship journey is like you have an idea and then things start to just kind of align and work out. Well, yeah, if there's any breweries or bar owners that are listening to this podcast, please reach out to Dustin. Yeah, and I'm in agreement. It's a nice aesthetic piece, and it's definitely a conversation piece. People ask questions like, what year is it? And what are the furnishings in it? So
yeah,
very
it works
cool.
out really well, because then I'm like, okay, I'll be parked at this brewery for the next 3 months, and like every time I'm posting or whatever, like this is where I'm at. So, it's a good like cross promotion to try to help each other out. There's, ideally it's a synergistic sort of partnership where we're helping each other out. We're helping bring each other business, and, people can come in. What would be really great is people can come in, and like one person wants to order a latte or cappuccino or whatever, and another person wants to get a beer. Like you can totally do that on a Sunday at noon. There's nothing wrong with that. So
yeah, you're able to kind of meet whatever people's needs and wants are, which is, marketing 101 is you're able to meet people where they're at, provide them the service that they're seeking at that time. So yeah, I think that's great. Is there anything, before we kind of wrap up here, is there anything that you would tell, a younger version of yourself before, all this, or any bits of advice you'd give to, entrepreneurs that are just starting out?
Yeah. One of them is very business related. The other one is life related. So business wise, we have already talked about it, but everything takes longer than you think it's going to. And I was really putting a lot of pressure on, opening like June, July, and it didn't happen, and so that kind of like, it hurt. And then I was like, okay, it's going to be August, and that didn't happen, and that hurt. And then I like realized, I was like, it doesn't matter actually. Like yes, it can matter financially and for a lot of like reasons. There's a lot of reasons to have anxiety and stress over it for sure. But my next like thing is like, if you can learn the like idea that if you just like surrender to the present moment, because whatever is happening, whatever challenge it is, as ridiculous as it is, like it's happening because it's exactly where you need to be. Like that's the exact challenge that you need to be going through, and feeling that and like just being able to like go with the present moment and like, okay, well, I guess now we're working on this project for 2 weeks. Like it is what it is. Like that's what we're doing. And that really helps with your sanity. I think that's like, that was really one of the major things that I took from this is like, once I realized that it's just not going to happen in some sort of a schedule that I want it to happen. Like it's just not, it's going to happen as it unfolds and as the timing is appropriate. And whatever happens along that way, whatever things fall into place or out of place, ultimately it's going to happen at the time it needs to, and that doesn't mean like, oh, I'm not going to work on anything today because it'll happen when it needs to happen. Like that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's going to be challenges. There's going to be absurd, ridiculous things that happen. And sometimes great things and sometimes like very, crazy challenges, but ultimately like that's exactly what you need to be experiencing, and being able to just like surrender to that moment and experience it and find joy in it. Cause like, if you're not enjoying the process of doing that thing, ripping your hair out over plumbing or whatever it is, like you're not gonna be able to sustain a business, because it's gonna be constant struggles, like forever. There's no like, well, once I get here, like it's gonna be easier or something. Like no, that's just not how it is. Like you're always trying to grow, you're always trying to improve. There's always gonna be challenges. Like one day I'm gonna be stuck on the side of the road before I go to get to work that day. Like it's gonna happen. Like I'm not trying to throw that out there and make it happen. You know what I mean? But like these things are gonna come your way, and like if you stay like, if you at least stay content about the fact that like this is just what is, like there's nothing I can do to change it other than be calm and try to react in the best way that I possibly can. Like that, learning that thing has helped change the dynamic of so many outcomes, because I've been able to stay level-headed. I've been able to stay optimistic and hopeful and laugh about how ridiculous that, like I'll be like heading to the DMV and I'll like break down and I'll be like, oh, how ridiculous, but it's funny. It's like, it's comical if you look at it from like a thing that's larger than you, and so then I like drove to the mechanic. Luckily I was able to putt along. It wasn't working properly, but I was able to kind of putt along and get to the mechanic. And, turned out that he had some coffee beans that he needed ground up. And we're just kind of chatting and whatever. I had a bunch of gunk in my catalytic converter. He had to bang out of there or whatever. 15 minutes later, he's got it running again. And I ground some coffee for him free, but it was like, because I came into that thing with like a positive attitude and like the fact that like, it just is what it is. Like things are gonna happen, and it's really how you react to them that changes the outcome.
Yeah. How your perspective on it. That's so awesome. Like that's such a great story and an example of, trying to like, it's hard to do, but it's looking outside of yourself and like seeing yourself as if you were like a movie or a character and like this ridiculous thing happening. Like there is like some comedy in it. And like, and you brought up some great points of like, there's always going to be new challenges. There's always going to be another hurdle and thing that you have to figure out and overcome as a business. And I know for myself, even in particular, it's like you mentioned, you were wanting to open on this date or on this date. For me, meeting some of these goals or these deadlines, and then they pass and you're like, oh man, like it's really easy to start like beating yourself up and going down this like negative spiral. But then I think you have such great clarity where it's, we're doing something very unique, something that's very challenging, and rolling with the punches and understanding that, hey, like I thought that was great. You're right where you need to be at all times. Like you're everything, happens for a reason. And so like what's happening to me is just what I like, one of the challenges I need to learn and grow as a person, which will ultimately help my business. And ultimately, I think what did I hear? Someone said like sometimes you have to do the things you don't want to do in order to be able to do the things you do. So like, going to the DMV, getting all those things passed, or so you can ultimately help people and make the world a better place. So
yeah, man. There's a quote that's been like, just keeps kind of coming up for me, but it's like and I don't know where this came from, but it's like, through adversity, we find our strength. And I think I saw it in like some cheesy movie or something like that. But like, it's like those sorts of that's really what it is. Like, your life is challenging. There's no path of least resistance. It's always going to be like this steady, you're going to be cutting against
highs and lows. You feel them all.
There's going to be friction, and like, you just got to embrace it and like love it and do it and just like react to it in a way that's like with open arms, like, this is life. I'm experiencing it. That's all that is, and just do it, man. It's hard to do. It's not like some easy thing.
I know it's fun talking about it. When I'm in the moment, I'm like, oh gosh, this sucks, But like you said, the adversity will show you like really who you are, and if you're able to rise to the challenge, you grow and you build upon those experiences. And I know for me, once I've had those experiences, I'm able to reflect back and be like, okay, I've done this before. Maybe not to the same degree, but at least I have that experience to lean back on, and I can apply it to the next challenge.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, it's a wild ride.
It is a wild ride. It's a roller coaster of emotions with owning a business. Well, Dustin, this has been awesome. I think we've kind of touched upon a lot of the different aspects. I'm excited for the business and excited for 2021. I'm hopeful for you guys. And I think you're a big inspiration to a lot of people, a lot of business owners out there, because you're documenting this journey and bringing people on board. Like, of a lot of people I've seen, you've done a really great job of making the audience feel a part of this and including them in some of those challenges, and they get to be part of the lows and they get to be part of the highs. So that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's been awesome. And I definitely, suggest that to anybody who's starting something out, is like, just get out there and get talking to people and get people excited about what you're doing, because if you're passionate, if you're excited about something, like, even if people aren't really all that interested in what you're doing, they're going to be really stoked on your passion for that thing,
And I think that's what you encapsulate that 100%, because your passion is just like oozing out. I can just tell, and it's exciting, and it inspires other people. And I think we need more passionate individuals. I forget what the stat is, but like 60% of people, 70% of people don't really enjoy their job, don't really enjoy their day-to-day life. And so imagine if we lived in a world where everyone was very passionate, like, about what they did. It would be incredible where we'd be at.
Yeah, man. That'd be a world I'd like to see. Pretty cool.
Got to turn the ship around. We got to get things back on track and get everyone. Yeah, it's crazy times. But hey, this has been awesome talking with you, Dustin. I'm walking away inspired. I hope the audience is. We'll put all of the links in the show notes. I don't know if I have the YouTube channel. Do you know the YouTube channel offhand?
Yeah. So The Evolving Human, if you want to look that up, that is, you can always check out. I have quite a few videos on there, so you could definitely go back and look at that. And then everything I'm doing currently is under greenbuscafe, which would be on Instagram and Facebook. So
it's awesome. All right, well, keep up the great work. Excited for you guys, and survive the winter. I know Colorado gets a little chillier than here, but I know you'll do fine. And until next time, and have a great rest of your day, Dustin.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. You too. Thanks a lot.
I want to say a big thanks for tuning into the Media Marketing Podcast. Please subscribe to get notifications for new episodes, which are coming out every Thursday morning, or at least we're striving for that. Feel free to visit our Facebook page where you can like and join the media marketing community. This is a good resource for collaborating, sharing ideas with other media creators, marketers, and those just looking to build their network. So until next time.